Millions of millennials are about to inherit homes that they cannot afford to keep. And this reveals something really crucial about how wealth transfers actually work in America. So we're going through a trend right now. If you haven't heard of it, it's called the Great Wealth Transfer, where boomers are starting to age and pass away and leave behind lots and lots of assets for their typically millennial children. And we're starting to see this especially around giving away homes. For example, like a lot of boomers are choosing to, stay in their homes longer than previous generations, which means millennials are going to inherit these properties that might have a ton of renovations needed that they just cannot afford to keep. And this is kind of, as we're seeing the housing market really start to go through a shift due to a lot of demographic changes. So these two kind of trends are colliding and creating a pretty interesting and significant change. And homes are a very traditional thing to pass down as part of an inheritance. And I think they are often seen as like a great, easy thing, like winning the lottery. And I'm not saying inheriting a home is not like a great thing. However, it can be a lot more of a financial burden than people realize. You take into account things like property taxes, maintenance, utilities, renovation costs. Like if your parents have stayed for decades in a home and haven't done any work on it, a lot of times there's going to need to be some sort of renovations. And that can really quickly overwhelm, an inheritor that might not have the income to support an expensive property. I mean, a lot of millennials right now don't even own homes. They're renting because they can't even afford to own their own home. So getting this kind of home, transferred to them and immediately having to pay to take care of it can be a huge psychological burden on a lot of people. And I write a lot about money psychology, and homes are a huge psychological thing when it comes to your money. A lot of times they are the biggest purchase you'll ever make. They are wrapped up in lots of emotions when you purchase it and also when you live in it, pass it down. And there's a ton of emotional attachment there. A lot of times they're childhood homes that are filled with memories and lots of meanings. And, again, that's why when you inherit that home, that can be a very weighty thing psychologically when you think about what to do with it, because there's all those emotions wrapped up in it. I always say that not all money is equal. And what I mean by that is, for example, money that you earn feels different psychologically than money you inherit, and inheritance can feel different. Inheriting cash is a lot different than inheriting a home. And I think we're kind of starting to see how that psychologically plays out with a lot of millennials. And this wealth transfer is also happening when a lot of millennials are geographically dispersed from their families. So if you don't live close to your hometown and you inherit a home in your hometown when you live across the country, that creates a logistical and emotional challenge that previous generations, especially our parents, typically didn't deal with. Millennials disproportionately live further away from their hometowns than boomers did. So again, we're seeing these very complex financial issues that are wrapped up in our emotions and kind of, how we think about American wealth. And the kind of interesting psychological irony here is that a lot of millennials spent years feeling financially behind their parents. And now